Hello, everyone, and welcome to this meetup. We have some very exciting talks here for you. And this meetup is actually a funny story because it was supposed to be a physical meetup here in Aalborg. And Sherry and Irina was going to come and visit and give some great talks. But due to all this corona situation, and especially here in Aalborg, we decided to make it an online event. And we joined forces with the 4Devs meetup group as well to share to an even wider community. But we have some really exciting stuff for you here tonight. So let's see if we can get this to work. I will be your host tonight. My name is Rasmus. And what we're going to see here is that after the opening, we'll have a talk about one of my new favorite stuff in Azure. That's called static web apps. That's a really cool service. And Sherry is going to show us some neat tricks regarding that. And the next talk is about Azure container apps and about scaling and working with the containers without the operational overhead that comes with Kubernetes. And Irina from Microsoft is going to talk about that. After each session, we'll have some possibilities to ask questions. And you will also be able to ask some questions at the end of the show. And questions is very important because that's where you get even more out of each talk and out of each speaker. So it's very important that you ask some questions, and you do that by writing your questions in the comments section on YouTube. And we will select some questions in here and have the speaker answer them. And the best two questions will be awarded a very special Christmas surprise. And one of them is the legendary giant chocolate. It's a sponsor gift from 2G Cloud. And that's a really, really nice prize. And if you ask a good question, you have a chance to win that. And the other prize is a secret prize with Microsoft swag. So that's what we have in for you here. So let's just start with the very first talk. And Sherry, she will talk about the static web apps. So welcome to the show, Sherry. Are you ready to kick it off?
Hi, yes, thank you very much, Cosmos, for inviting us for this session. And I was really looking forward to see you all in person, but yes, kind of family and health and everything comes, of course, first. And I really hope that we can meet soon. Rasmus, even you, I never met you before in person, so.
So. Looking forward to that for sure.
Yes, totally. Okay, so let me just remove this one from here. So, as Rasmus mentioned, today we are going to have like a quick introduction to Azure Static Web Apps, which is also one of my very favorite Azure services that we have at the moment. So, a quick intro about myself. I'm working as Azure Developer Engagement Lead at Microsoft. My job is basically to build relationship with the developer communities by engaging with them, supporting the initiatives, giving talk at the conferences, and sponsoring the conferences, and so on, to find the knowledge gap and reflect it to the country plan that I create to upskilling the developers in Denmark. That's why that you some of you might have seen me in many different places. And my background is that I'm being a developer since I was 16 years old. And in recent years, my focus was mostly about front-end development. And that is why this Azure Static Web Apps is my favorite Azure services that we have. And outside of work, I'm still working with the community. That's my habit. I consider myself as a community builder, and I'm part of some of the initiatives that I mentioned them here below in this slide, like Hack a Future, which is a coding schools for disadvantaged groups in Denmark that they have zero or limited access to education system. They go to this 7 months bootcamp and learn everything that they need to learn in order to join the job market as a junior developer. These coding skills exist in Aalborg and Copenhagen, and all of you can actually help there to be a mentor, or your companies can sponsor them or hire some of our graduates. I'm a co-founder and co-organizer of NG Copenhagen, NG Spain, and NG Vikings. All these NGs stand for Angular, which is a JavaScript framework, and also DevShow and Azure Heroes that we're going to talk about it later on today. And you will also get some extra gifts from us from the Azure Heroes team as well. Enough about me, and let's get started with the presentation. Normally, when I give this presentation, I give it for the JavaScript community. And today we have a mixed audience here. That's why I wanted all of us to be on the same page. And I start from the very beginning, which is the Gemstack. So what is a Gemstack? Matthias Spielmann, who is a co-founder of Netlify, described the Gemstack as a modern web development architecture based on client-side JavaScript, reusable API, pre-built markup, which means that Gemstack, when we want to talk about each of these three elements, JavaScript is going to be the runtime environment for this Gemstack. And so it means that you create like a dynamic functionalities by JavaScript. It can be some of the JavaScript frameworks, or it can be without the framework. But this these functionalities is always on JavaScript. And then we have some reusable APIs. So these APIs, they are like an abstract that our JavaScript application is going to talk to, and this can be like our own first-class APIs, but of course reusable. But it can be some third-party one that we have actually communication through the HTTPS. So as you can see here, up to even right now, that there is a very big emphasis on decoupling. That we are going to get back to it later on in the presentation as well. And then we have the markup. So this markup that we are talking about is the websites that they are served as an static HTML. So it means that this can be either generated by some of the site generators or totally as from the markdown. So it depends on that which way we want to create this markup. So once we have an application kind of that built in this way, we call this stack as Gemstack. So you might have asked that why even we need this Gemstack? Why is it different from any other way of building applications? Well, as a developer, we all know that we all want to improve the performance. Even the milliseconds from when the user click on a functionality till everything is loaded in front of the user, it matters. And having a pre-built and pre-render markup, it actually boosts up the performance like crazy. So that's why that by going through this way, you already will gain a lot of performance. It's less expensive, and in some cases, it is even for free. Yes, you can even host your application for free. We are going to get back to it later on as well. Better developer experience. Having the stuff being decoupled allows us developer to focus on a small area and then make that one work. And then we all know that avoiding going through a monolith application that nobody knows that what is happening from there is already bringing us a lot of kind of the better experience. And also we can get our job done faster as well. Scalability is actually one of the things that it comes out of the box with this pattern as well, because all of that HTML is going to be to be distributed through a CDN or content network distribution. And so in this way you can easily scale it up or down as you need. Whenever we are talking about an architectural pattern, the first question is that, is there any best practices out there? Of course there are. One is that we should always make sure that our static markups is going to be distributed through a CDN. We discussed it earlier that because of the scalability and also because of the performance that we give. And each deploy is a full snapshot of the site. So it means that, so in this way, we can guarantee the consistent version of our website globally. Cache invalidation is one of the main factors of this one. Specifically, when we are talking about having the content to be delivered through the CDN, we should be able to make sure that every time that there is a deploy, we invalidate the previous cache. Otherwise, we all know that it's not going to go very well. So, and the other thing is about that everything on version control. So we all know that having our code base on a place like GitHub is going to help us to have the traceable history, easier collaboration, but it also enables us to have an automated build, which is the next point here. That is actually one of the core factor of this Gemstack practices, because our workflow is normally is supposed to be like this. Very simple. We have our code base on kind of that, for example, on GitHub, and then whenever that we have an automated build on any merge or pull request as we define it, then we are going to have an automated deploy, invalidate the cache, and then the CDN is going to be updated. So, are there any tools out there that is going to help us to actually have this up and running? That is why we are going to, both Rasmus and myself, we mentioned that we love Azure Static Web Apps, because it actually is the right tool for us to enable us to have this workflow. So Azure Static Web Apps is a service that automatically builds and deploys full stack web apps to Azure from a code repository. So the workflow is going to be totally like this. We have a code base, and then on each merge or each pull request and so on, we are going to have GitHub Action running or Azure DevOps running, and the build, and then we have that totally segregation between the static content and our API, as Gemstack also kind of that Gemstack is also advise us to do. So you can see that's why that I said that having an understanding of a Gemstack is very much needed to find out that why is even this flow is matter. So how easy it is actually to run this to run this flow? It's super duper easy. All you need to do is go to the Azure portal. Just like any service that when you want to create, you are going to create like a resource, choose your subscription, and then have a name for your application, and then say that, for example, in my case, I wanted my application be mainly available in Western Europe. So you choose the region, and then you choose your GitHub. And on the GitHub, you are going to choose the repository that you want to be connected, and then which branch is going to be your main branch. So in my case, it was the repository called Brain, and then I wanted it to be the main kind of that main branch of that to be our default branch of build. And the good part about Azure Static Web Apps is that we know that once we are dealing with the JavaScript frameworks, each of these JavaScript frameworks, they have their own way of building application. So so that build process and where the data is, where is the end result is different, which command to run. So what Azure Static Web Apps did is that it actually provided us with some default template. So in that dropdown, you can choose the framework that you want to. It comes out of the box with the build process. Otherwise, you can define your own process. And I will show you that later on, that what is going to be the result of this form that we added here. Then we have to point out where is the location of our application in that repository and where is the API location. By default, it guesses that the API is an API folder, but you can choose it in wherever that you want to. And then the output, which is the result of the build of your application. In my case, since it was Angular, so it always puts the build version on the dist / the name of the application. So once you create that, you have all of these flow up and running. Okay, the key features of it. I'm not going to go through all of this. Is a lot. But one of the things I want to, some of them that I want to highlight here for you is that it has a free version, which also you can see here that your subscription, we can actually have it for free. And I would say that 60-70% that free one is 100% enough for you. And of course, you can choose the standard one and then pay to get extra service and so on. But that free, it works like a charm in most of the cases. But if you, one of the things that, for example, it comes without the out of the box is that it's taking care of that SSL certification. So all of those burden is out. So you don't need to take care. You need to think about that, how I enable my SSL, how I enable my custom domain, and out of the box, it comes with the authorization and authentication. But based on the authentication is based on Twitter, LinkedIn, and GitHub and Facebook at the moment. But you can have your own custom authentication, but that is actually comes with a paid version of it. So the other thing that I really like is that generated staging version. So we all know that whenever that one of our colleagues is creating a pull request, we go and look at the pull request, but we really want to click on that link, which is there to see that the result, is it really working or not? So previously, I remember that we had a lot of our DevOps team that always helping us to creating that staging, kind of that staging part up and running. But here, in this case, it comes out of the box. And yes, so if you just go to the Azure Static Web Apps, you can read more about this. But these are actually that the features that I mentioned. These are my favorite features of Azure Static Web Apps. So enough about having the slides. I want to actually show you all in action how it works. My very first demo is going to be a kind of that I find it a fun demo. So if you just head out to this URL that I add here, I have this actually device here that it actually is an EEG device that it takes my brain waves, and it can with a little bit of AI, you can see that how focused I am. So I put it here. There will be some delay to see it. So if I bring my browser here, so you can also see how it works. So I need to. So if I go here, say ki.ms/how focused is sharing. So you can see actually this page that it shows my focus level, and of course my focus level is not very high since I'm doing different things, but this is the page that I created pretty fast with the Azure static WebApps actually. So it doesn't have, there is no API involved, and the repo is also it's called Brain on my GitHub repo. You can just go and look at it, but I want to actually bring it here for you as well to see how it works. So if sorry, all of a sudden I had all of this ready before, but I refreshed them all, of course. So this is actually the repo. So it's a simple Angular page that my actually everything is in this crown folder, my Angular app. I guess I believe I have to make this slightly bigger so it's visible. So they are here, and what the thing that we put there, the result of the form, it comes to this folder, which is GitHub workflow. And sorry, I have two of them here, but because I have two different builds out of it. But what we made there, it is actually here. It generated the YAML file based on whatever that you put there. So you see that these are the these are the thing that I added here, and there is no API. If there was an API, or if I wanted to modify it later on, I could just easily go and modify these, and then it would just work. So I want to show you how it actually works in action, because it's pretty fast what we add here. So in that form, you notice that I only had, it shows my focus level. So what I want to do, I want to make a change here. And I want to actually, my Angular component here, I want to add another diameter as well. So it only shows my focus. I want to actually show my calmness as well. So I use my favorite GitHub actually feature as well. By clicking a dot, you are going to load the whole what do you call it, that VS Code here, which I always love it. So normally it's faster because I wanted to make a demo. What demo god is, yes, is happy with me. So I'm going to actually remove this one from here. So it's the comment version. So it's also have my other component shows there. I make my commit here. So calmness is added. I committed, and by clicking on this, I am actually also pushing it to the GitHub. So if we go back, what happens is here on the GitHub, if we go on the action, we see that there are these, because I had, if you notice, I had two YAML files there because I had two different builds. So the build is totally triggered here. And then you can totally go through the build and then look at it, how it works on each stage, and if there is any error or something, you could totally see it in action, that what went wrong. And I don't believe that we want to wait like 4 minutes or so on to look at this log file, even though that's super exciting. But yes, so on each build, this actually is triggered. And let's go back here. So to not kind of, we will come back once the build is finished in about like 3 minutes, I believe, because what it does is just go and build my Angular application. and then it's going to kind of to update the CDN as we discussed before. So if I had kind of that an API, there would be another API folder here. So once the build is running, I want to actually show you another project here that I have. So this is also on my GitHub page. You can check it out. But this is actually an application which is available on the Azure Static Web Apps samples as well. So it's a to-do list. It's an exciting to-do list that it is built by Angular, React, Vue, Svetlana, so you can see it all here. And then there is also an API call, because you can see the list. Actually, it's not a to-do list, it's a shopping list, sorry. so you can, in the API, there is a functionality for add, edit, and delete your shopping list. And the recent authentication is also added here. Let me just see if that is already, I guess it should be already built. So yes, you see, it quickly, it actually has been updated. So now you can also see what I'm presenting, how calm I am. So let's remove this actually from here. So we go forward. And so I want to look like an alien for the rest of the thing. So here, so in this shopping list, we have authentication. We have also an API. So one thing is that especially when you have the authentication, or generally when you want to work on your local machine, you don't want to, every time that you work on your local machine, you build and deploy to the cloud. That's not sustainable way of working. It's going to take forever. So that is why we have this Azure Static Web Apps. It has so it has actually a fantastic CLI, and with this CLI you can run your whole actually application locally as well, and you can test it. You can test the authentication and so on as well. So we have this SWA start, and then just like when you want to build it, when you actually send the YAML file, you need to give the location of your build file. For example, in my case, it's an Angular app in this, and the name of that, and then where your API is. So once you run this one, let's run it together. It's quite fast. Then you will have the whole application set up with the backend. It runs the backend as well. It's running the front end, and then you have everything here set it up and in your local host. So if we go to this local host, I don't know where it is. So for whatever reason it doesn't open it, so we go here and open it forcefully. So let's go here, and of course since the demo code is not with me, or let me just see. No, actually this is not the, oh, it is port. This is the right port. What was it? Let me just put it. That was our function app, actually. That was our backend that I clicked on it. So this is our app. So you can see that it's my my exciting shopping list, and there are some strawberries and sliced bread and apples already there. So this comes back from the API. And then the root is here. And then one thing I haven't noticed, that I haven't mentioned it to you, you can also set up your routing for the backend. So if the person is not authenticated or is not authorized, you can actually have that as well set up there, and it's pretty easy in the proxy to set it up. And if you go to the Azure portal, you can actually define all of those rules there as well. And in this case, I am actually authenticated, so I have to log out because I tested it before we come here. So this is the part I wanted to show you. I can have it with the GitHub authenticated, so it runs like a dummy server here. And then you can add your role here. If you had the different type of roles, you could just add it here to make sure that your application is going to test before you deploy it to the cloud. So here I will just say that my name is Sherry, and then you log in, and it kind of triggered as if it was actually login. And then you can see that it says that welcome Sherry here. And then you could just test it. And if you are not authenticated, some of the things might not work here. And the important part is that I need to show you here that it's actually pretty easy, because it comes out of the box. You don't need to actually be worried that how this authentication works there. All you need to do is that you need to have this in your application. You need to for this auth login logout, you need to just say that I want to have I want to call this route, that dot auth / with the different methods that it has. It is already built there, so you only need to call it and then do kind of do the thing that you want to do. And it's for my case, it was just I just made like an array of provider with the different provider that I wanted to test. I put it in my navigation, and I have this login and log out there. So it is pretty simple, and it is pretty easy. Yeah, I guess these were the main thing that I wanted to actually to show you here. So all of this code and everything, it is already on the GitHub. And if you want to learn more, you can. I totally recommend you to go to this Learn module that we have on Microsoft Learn. It is the full blown workshop that you can follow, and that's actually where I personally learned everything about Azure Static Web Apps as well. And it is based on Angular, Svetlé, React, and Vue. So you have the different kind of that passes, and then you go forward from there. And as I also promise you all, you are getting an Azure Learner Pass, because you learned hopefully something new today from this, or later on from Irina as well. So this Azure Heroes project is like a project from Microsoft for the developer community to say thank you for learning and building on top of our product. And once you scan this QR code, you get you can choose what type of learner badge you have, because you can collect many different type of it. And then if you never had an Azure Heroes before, you need to actually install an app on your phone, which is done by our partner Engine, which is a digital wallet for your tokens, because these tokens are actually an NFT tokens. And for this specific one, it will be an NFT token, which is the name of this meetup today, and Osmus as the host as well there. And if you want to learn more about the Azure Heroes, you can go to aka.ms/Azure.Heroes to learn about this program and nominate yourself or a community friend for that. And I am here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Very exciting talk. It looks like a really great service. So this time we only have a single question from the audience. So just have it here.
Yes.
So the question says, can you use Azure DevOps as repository source and release pipeline for deployment?
As I read it recently, actually, that it only used to be for the GitHub, but now it is also available to do it with the Azure kind of that with the Azure DevOps as well. But in the portal, you can see there is only one option for GitHub, and then the other ones is for other. So I assume that you need to put it there. I personally haven't tried it, but it should be possible. And if it was not possible, so if you couldn't make it work, and Natal, please ping me. I will make sure to find out how it works.
Great, great. Thank you. I just have a question as well. So, you know, good old-fashioned app services, you have the possibility to do some A/B testing. Is
Yes.
that also possible with static web apps?
I assume that you have to make it work for the different features, feature branches, and you can have as many feature branches as you want there. Because I just went for the simple version, which is I have only one build. But as you saw that I had multiple different builds, so in a different YAML file, you can just say that this is going to be my other feature, my other branch. Then you have it on the different one.
Sure. Makes sense. So how is it with so static web apps is somehow tightly integrated with Azure Functions, but does Azure Functions provide anything special to static web apps, or could it just as well be an API app running in an app service or something else?
So as far as I read, it is possible to. The integration is easier, but since anyway, at the end of the day, we just go back that is exactly like a Gemstack. So it can be any other function that you're going to call. So it can, and I'm pretty sure that when you are working on a bigger project, so you have a lot of function apps that is running and as a different services, so you can just pick and choose one of them.
Yes, great. That's good to hear. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Sherry. It was a pleasure to have you here. So and please remember that when you ask questions, you are in for winning the special Christmas surprise, and the winners will be drawn at the end of the show.
Can I ask a question from myself and win that chocolate?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sherry. So let's see if we can go back here like this. Yes. So we had a few questions, and the next talk we're going to have is something very exciting, but completely different than static web apps. It's actually the opposite end of the stack, maybe. So when you build microservices, one of the challenges is to how do you run them, how do you segment them, which platform do you use to develop your microservices? Do you use containers or do you something else? And if you use containers, how are you going to orchestrate the containers? And people often use Kubernetes, but there is an alternative, and it was just released by Microsoft, and it's called Container Apps. And Irina is going to give a very interesting talk about how that is actually working out. It's a service that is in preview currently, and it was introduced at Ignite. So we're very much looking forward to hear Irina talk about the show. Irina, she is at a hackathon in KMD at Aalborg, and she's running between rooms right now. So we can maybe add her to the stream. Are you here, Irina? Your microphone is muted. Yeah, she is running between rooms.
Hi, everyone. And I had to escape a public area because it's getting late. But pleasure to be here. And as Rasmus already introduced, we're going to talk about the backend and what's new in the world of the backend. And the world is getting distributed well, but that's not new. But I think what is interesting to talk about is the new Azure Container App Service, which we have. And to be honest, it's not much to show there because we simplified a lot. You just need to write your microservices, and we're going to take care of the scaling of them for you. But it's important to understand how it works with Dapper and what's possible and what not. And I'm going to just show a couple of slides in order to explain how it works. If you could just give me a minute to figure that out.
Sure, we can.
Yeah, and I can see people are laughing at my nickname. I'm not that angry. Well, unless my demos stop working.
Well, that's how it is. Demos, they have to stop working at some
Yep.
point, and they sometimes start again.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, I decided not to do an introduction about why distributed applications and microservices, it's important to build them, because I think we heard enough talk by now everywhere about how actually hard is it and expensive to scale a monolith. But yeah, it's more interesting to talk about what's actually new in the world of microservices. And yeah, as I said, for example, Azure Container Apps is a very new offering from Microsoft, which provides a managed service to host microservices basically out of the box without overhead of managing underlying infrastructure, in comparing how it would be with Kubernetes, where you have to take care of all the underlying VMs, updates and patches for it, as well as all the networking service meshes and stuff on top of that. But before talking about Azure Container Apps, it's important to understand what Dapper is, and basically addresses the big challenge, which is basically complexity when you build microservices. It kind of does it through an architecture of the pluggable components, and it simplifies all the operations you need to take care of when you build distributed applications. The very good example is how do you provide services which are stateful. So normally you will have to write the code which handles that yourself. But Dapper provides these capabilities out of the box along with other things. And well, which things are that? Well, as I mentioned, the state management. Why is it challenging? Because, for example, if you store your state in some kind of a storage, actually application might require different kind of the storages. Then you have to write the code to handle each of them. And there also might be different consistency levels which are required for accessing and updating the data. Or it might be that multiple users update data at the same time, so you need to somehow handle the conflict resolution. But also services may need to handle the transient errors which occur on the way. But basically, the way Dapper handles that is through so-called sidecar pattern that where Dapper basically has the functionality of storing and retrieving the value based on the key. And it's pretty standardized right now what kind of stores you can use, and of course it includes all the famous data stores, and of course some of them are also from Azure, such as Cosmos, SQL, and storage. And Dapper communicates to communicate with Dapper. It happens over HTTP or gRPC. Another problem which Dapper solves is server invocation, and there are actually many challenges in the distributed applications which are attributed to this. You somehow need to figure out how to actually locate the service which has to be called, but also how to do it in a secure manner. Again, handle retries for the transient errors. But also you need to somehow capture diagnostics for the services. Another common operation in the microservices which Dapper helps to solve is publish subscribe. It's a building block basically which provides an API or like a framework to send and receive messages. So if you worked maybe with in Azure with events, you can create sort of a topic and then create subscriptions for the topic and receive messages and consume them. So Dapper kind of provides the similar functionality where you can subscribe to the topic and then receive a specific message. There is also binding functionality. So it's for bidirectional communication. It's in a way similar to the publish and subscribe, but publish and subscribe model, it focuses on the asynchronous communication between Dapper services, and while resource binding has a little bit more wider scope, it kind of focuses on the system interoperability across different platforms and exchanging information between applications and data stores outside of the microservices application. And maybe in order to understand that, to make sense, to give an example, you can subscribe to the events when someone publishes something to the Twitter account. And then you can process the tweets and have something else, some other service such as Twilio to send SMS. So it's in a way you can combine these different pluggable components and use them. And again, there is a big list, open source repository on GitHub, which defines what are the different components already integrated with Dapper. Then also there is a problem of observability. It basically comes down to how do you log, how do you provide metrics and insights into performance, and also handling health endpoints to get the availability of the service. And also, yes, there is a secrets management block, basically provides abstraction to simplify the complexity of working with secrets in microservices. Just a couple of words about what is sidecar pattern. It's not only used in Dapper. There are also other scenarios where people use sidecar pattern. The reason to use it is basically when if there are some services which are tightly integrated into application, yes, they can run and they run in the same process as the application, but you need to make efficient use of the shared resources. So also sidecar is used in order to collocate a cohesive set of the tasks with the primary application, but place them in a separate process or a container. So basically, in order to separate tasks, but which are still sort of close to the main application. So things which are commonly being isolated, perhaps logging or configuration, but Dapper also has its functionality running as a sidecar container. And here is just an example of how, for example, service invocation works. If container A wants to call container B, it create requests to actually Dapper first, then Dapper talks to another Dapper of the container B, and then only request gets invoked in the service B, and then the response goes again back through the Dapper. Now, if we're talking about Azure Container Apps, some of the example scenarios which it basically helps to solve. Well, you can deploy API endpoints. You can also host actually background processing applications, or you can host microservices, or handle event-driven processing. The way it works, you can scale containers based on a certain parameters. Basically, everything which Kida supports. If you work with Kubernetes, you know that you can scale containers in Kubernetes not only based on the resources which cluster consumes, but also, for example, on the message queue or other parameters. So everything which is supported in Keda is supported in Azure Container Apps, but also you can do that in the amount of HTTP request, but also resource utilization. Just a short list of basically what can you do with Azure Container Apps and why is it good. It's scaling out of the box, and as I said, it's a very nice integration with Dapper as well. Also, almost out of the box, I guess, you can configure parameters even through the portal. There are a couple of concepts which I need to explain, but one of them is revisions, basically an ability to manage different versions of containers. And with that comes an ability to actually split traffic and get blue-green deployments or A/B testings. Just explain about the environments. What does it mean? So environment is sort of like individual container. So it's like a secure boundary around groups of container apps. Container apps in the same environment are deployed in the same virtual network, and they write logs to the same log analytics work space. The reasons to deploy container apps in the same environment might be, for example, if you want to manage related services, deploy different applications to the same virtual network. If you want to have apps to communicate using Dapper or have the same Dapper configuration, and if you want to share the same log analytics workspace. The reasons not to deploy into the same environment, it would be that two applications, they don't share the compute resources, and they shouldn't communicate over Dapper together. And as I said, there is something called revisions, which is basically a mechanism to have different versions of containers. Yes, if you want to direct traffic from one snapshot of container to another one. And as I said, good examples of that are different deployments and A/B testing. And here you can see that you can actually define the rules. How do you split the traffic into different containers? I'm gonna show not the full deployment of the demo, but just how it looks like when you deploy it into Azure Container Apps. So it's basically two services. So it's somewhat a small microservices project. In the Dapper GitHub repository, it's called Hello Kubernetes, but we adapted these containers to run into the Azure Container Apps. So two services, one is calling another, and then so Python application calls the node application, and then node application stores the state in the Azure storage. Let me show what happens when you deploy that into the portal. Not into the portal, how it looks in the portal when you deploy this application. Rasmus, is it visible? My screen?
It is visible.
Yes, thank you. So in my environment, as per the slide, we should have two applications, two containers, the Python app and the Node app, and they communicate over Dapper. By the way, if you want to split the traffic, and well, I just have one version of container, but if you have a second version of container, it will come here, and then you specify here rules about how to distribute the traffic. So inside here, if you do specify the integration with Dapper, there will be then a tab for that. And here we can see that there is a storage configured. All this deployment was done through the CLI. You can also do it through the portal. Just to show you how it looks like, this is the configuration file. It's just a YAML file where you specify the parameters, what storage has to be used, and then just the credentials, how to access it. And then when you feed this into the comment of the creation of the container, it gets this configuration file and gets parameters through it. Yes, this is basically, I think we can also see the way it works when the Python container calls, not Python container, when the Python app, the service calls the Node app. What it does, it just basically writes something. The state is constantly updated in the storage, so we can see that it actually does something. Unfortunately, I don't have a shiny demo with the UI, but it works. Yeah, and it's just constantly querying, so we can see that it's just updating the order ID. I think that maybe was it for the demo. I'm just gonna see if there is anything interesting to show here as well. But give it a try. There is a tutorial in our documentation. It's a pretty new service, so not that many things are out yet. But there is a simple tutorial of how to create the container app, but also how to deploy it with Dapper, and it's based on the actually the Kubernetes example. So give it a try, and there is also Ignite demo. Again, with a similar concept. Should I just take the questions, maybe?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Irina. That was a great presentation, and I think that this container apps is going to solve a lot of situations where Kubernetes is too much and single containers is too little. So that's
Exactly.
that's really exciting to see how that's going to work out in practice, and I'm sure there'll be a great take up on it. So let's look at the questions. So we have a few more questions this time, which is great. So let's start with the first one from Gert.
Yeah.
Do you need to use Dapper in order to use Azure Container Apps?
No, you can just no, you don't have to use Dapper, but it works really well together. You can scale container just based on the amount of HTTP requests which are coming there, or the resource utilizations such as CPU and memory. And when you deploy a container app, it actually gets a public URL, so you can just call a container which is inside.
Okay, great. Is there any alternative to Dapper with similar functionality that?
Well, the thing is, I actually don't know. I don't think, not at least as famous, and it doesn't integrate with container apps like out of the box like this.
Of course, yes. Great, thanks. Let's move on to the next question. So, oh, that was not the one. That was this one. Peter. So, can you use a function with the Azure Container Apps?
I'm a bit not sure. Depends how you want to use it, I guess. What I can think about that, if you're hosting two different services, then you have to just call it over a public endpoint, like because it's two separate networks. Container app is hosted in its own environment, and yeah, and you don't have control over network there. Like you can't connect, like you can't do peering or anything like that. So you can use them separately and then connect like any other, APIs, I think.
Yeah, sure. And Peter is just elaborating that he's talking about a function app.
Yeah, I understand, but yeah, like they don't go together.
Yes.
Is it like fully integrating?
Great. Let's show the next comment here. So can you give insights to when to go with AKS over container apps and vice versa? And when will it be more cost effective?
Yeah,
That's a good
okay.
question.
Good. Yeah. um, so um, I think it's different angles to look at it. If the team is actually new to Kubernetes, maybe it's easier to go with container apps because you don't have. It's actually quite long learning curve to adapt to Kubernetes. Um, so that could be one thing. How easy to get started. Also, but on the same on a other note, Kubernetes provides more opportunities for you in terms of what do you control there. So you can pick what kind of nodes you have. For example, you can pick maybe you have some operations, I don't know, for machine learning, and you require some special type of VMs for that. You can't do that on container apps. It's not as flexible. And I guess in Kubernetes, you also have a full control over network. You can specify different rules and what's can see what. Again, it's not, you don't have so much control on container apps. Um, so I think maybe like really complicated big installations would go with Kubernetes. Also, I think it will be cheaper in the long run if you have a constant load on the environment. If it's something which comes and goes, because you don't pay for container apps if nothing is running there. It just scales down to zero, and then you don't pay for resources.
Yeah.
So can't say. It kind of depends on the situation, but yeah.
Yeah, but there was some really great input, especially around the learning curve. That can be really important to some
Yeah.
teams. Time to market is important. Yes, let's quickly move on to the next question. So this is also from Gerd. So what ingress controller is used?
Actually, I don't know. It doesn't specify anywhere. I would assume application gateway maybe because it's a premium Azure service.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. And how is it actually? Is it possible to use things like API management? Is there any integration into that?
Well, for now, I can see that you can only like say, okay, allow ingress or not. But
Okay.
I guess you could put in front whatever you want.
Yeah. Sure. Yes. Let's pick another lots of questions. So, does it support Windows containers?
No, for now it's only Linux, as I know.
Yeah. Do you know anything? Is Windows containers in the makings? It probably is.
The service is not GA yet.
Oh, no.
It's it's yeah. I'm not sure. Well, I'm pretty sure that at some point it will be supported, but maybe not until first of all the container apps are general availability.
Yeah, sure. Yes. Thanks. And then the last question, I think this chocolate surprise really turned on people. So, will container apps support VNet integration and private endpoints? That's a good question.
Good question. I hope so because yeah, I can see that otherwise it's not. Yeah, it's going to be really hard to have it in big environments. So as for now, I don't know. I'm not sure people will like anyone will give you a clear answer of that because it's really hard to get insights into the roadmaps and plans. But I think maybe in the future that's definitely something which has to come.
Yeah.
For it to be a success.
Yeah, I agree. It probably will.
Yeah.
My bet is that it will come pretty soon, but nobody knows, or at least I don't. Yes, that's it. That's all the questions that we have right now. And so let's get Sherry back here. Welcome back, Sherry. You are muted, by the way, if you're going to say something. So now is the very exciting time that we have all been waiting for, because now is the time to draw the winner of the legendary Christmas chocolates. So,
Should we go for drum rolls?
Sherry, that's for you. Can you do the drum rolls? Oh, and the winner is Natal.
Ooh.
Congratulations. This is yours. I'll post my email address in the chat window, and you just send me your contact information, and I will mail this giant chocolate to you. Except if you live in New Zealand, then you can pick it up at my place. So we have another prize as well, some Microsoft swag, some Azure Hero swag. And the winner is Gert.
Yay!
Congratulations. And the same goes
Woohoo.
to you. I'll put my email in the comments, and you can send me contact information, and then Sherry will send it to New Zealand.
Yes. Yeah, I will come directly. I will deliver it with to you to New Zealand. In that way, I can also travel. So
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good idea. Yes, but I guess that was all from us. Irina, Sherry, do you have anything else?
Thank you for having me. It was fun. Also, a lot of questions. I wish we could meet in person
Yeah,
next
let's hope
time,
for that.
maybe.
Yes,
right.
great.
Same here. And then don't be a stranger. contact us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and so on. Whenever that there is a question, both Irina and myself, we try our best to find the answers for you. Or if you have some actually initiatives, community initiatives, and so on, let us know. We can do something together.
That sounds like an excellent plan. Well, thank you so much for joining, all of you. And if we not see you before then have a Merry Christmas. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.